Hello everyone, how's it going, and welcome to today's Wild Rift video. In today's guide, we're going to be taking a look at the loose cannon Jinx. Jinx is a dual lane marksman that scales crazily well into the late game thanks to her insane range and attack speeds. Jinx is one of the first champions you can pick up when playing Wild Rifts. This is because she has an easy to learn kit with straightforward combos and mechanics. Taking a look through the build, as a dual lane marksman, Jinx wants to build items that give her a lot of attack damage, critical strike chance, but also attack speed, so it scales very well with her passive and her rockets to be able to auto attack very fast and get a lot of takedowns. For the first item, you can go for Gluttonous Greaves as your boots upgrade. Gluttonous Greaves, now giving you attack damage, is very strong. It's a very cheap item, and also the Omnivamp in the early game just helps Jinx quite a lot because Jinx is a late game scaling AD carry. She does struggle a little bit in the early game, but with the Omnivamp from Gluttonous Greaves, this will help her out in terms of scaling and surviving in the early game. For your boots upgrades, you do have various different options. You can go Stasis if you're against any assassins. Protobelt is quite nice because Jinx doesn't have any mobility or any dashes, so Protobelt will allow her and give her a dash. Also, you can go for Quicksilver if you're against a lot of crowd control on the enemy team. Quicksilver is also a great option. Then for the first full item, we're going to go for Phantom Dancer. As I mentioned already, attack speed is going to be very important for Jinx, not only in her minigun form, but also in her rocket form when it comes to team fights. 25 attack damage is still quite a lot of attack damage early on, 25% crit rate and 30% attack speed. You also get a lot of movement speed from the Shadow Ward passive and also from Spectral Wards. But the big thing about Spectral Wards is that when you attack 4 times, after you attack 4 times, you gain 25% attack speed for the same amount of duration, and this refreshes every single time you auto attack with Jinx. So not only are you getting a little bit of attack damage in the early game, but you are getting a lot of attack speed that will scale really well with the Jinx, with her abilities and with her passive. Then you want to go for Infinity Edge, really strong attack damage item. It gives you 55 attack damage in total, 25% crit chance, and Infinity allows her crits to increase from 175% to 205% damage. So your crits in general are just going to hurt a lot more. Then Bloodthirster, another item that gives you a lot of attack damage, plus 55 AD again, a little bit of critical strike chance. And you have the Bloody passive, which gives you physical vamp, and the Blood Swarm passive also gives you a little bit of an overshield heal when the physical vamp goes above your health. So this will give you a little bit of a shield at the start of team fights. With bruisers or assassins jump onto you, you're going to have that little bit of extra HP to work with. Again, a very strong item that gives you both offensive stats with the attack damage, but also the physical vamp will help Jinx stay alive during team fights. For an AD carry and for dual lanes down in the bot lane, you always want to build at least 1% armor pen item. In this instance, we're going to go for Mortal Reminder, 45 attack damage, the percent armor pen, and the passive mean that we're going to be applying grievous wounds to enemy champions, so that's going to be reducing the impact of healing and regeneration effects, which is going to make it, you know, Jinx killing enemy champions that little bit easier. Then for your final item, we have a Mortal Shield Bow. There are other options you can go for. I think Immortal Shield Bow is just great because of the lifeline passive. Again, more defensive stats, you can say, for Jinx, and more ways to keep her alive, because you can be stuck and you can be in a little bit of trouble when you don't have your passive online, when you don't get a takedown, because she can be quite slow, and also she can take quite a lot of damage when being jumped on. So lifeline passive is great, but there also is another option. You can go for something like Rune's Hurricane. Does a lot of spread damage and works very well with Jinx's passive, because you only need a takedown to be able to get a crazy amount of attack speed and movement speed. So that takedown means kills or assists. So with your spread damage from Rune's Hurricane, maybe you might get a little bit lucky and get an assist or a kill with the spread damage. For the runes, Lethal Tempo, given Jinx an insane amount of attack speed. This is stacking attack speed as well, and when Lethal Tempo is fully stacked, you're going to be able to exceed the attack speed cap, which also works very well with going with Jinx's passive. So you have Lethal Tempo giving you a lot of attack speed, Jinx's passive giving you a lot of attack speed, and you'll see a bit later on that Jinx gets a crazy amount of attack speed when Lethal Tempo is fully stacked, when you have your passive online and you have the extra attack speed from Phantom Dancer. So you're going to be attacking a lot and also dealing a lot of damage. For the primary runes, we're going to go for the precision tree, and we're going to go for brutal as our first option. This is the best option for AD carries, allowing you to deal bonus adaptive damage on hits. The second option is a bit flexible. You can go for coup de grace if you feel like you're not against any tanks on the enemy team and you could do a lot of damage, or you can go for giant slayer if you're against champions that are going to be building a lot of bonus health, so a lot of tanks and bruisers. For the third option, Legend Alacrity gives you even more attack speed if you feel like you need it, or Legend Bloodline is also another great option if you feel like you need that little bit of extra protection and a little bit of extra Omnivamp. I do like the Legend Alacrity. It feels like it gives you a bigger power spike. And then for the resolve tree and for the secondary rune, the resolve tree allows you to go for bone plating if you need that protection against AD carries, against assassin or any AD carries that might jump on top of you, or you can go for the inspiration tree and go for something like Nimbus Cloak. Because we're going to go for Ghost and Flash, it will give us that little bit of extra movement speed and a little bit of extra mobility when it comes to the team fights. As I just mentioned, with our summer spells, we're going to go for Flash and we're going to go for Ghost. Jinx has a crazy amount of attack range with her rocket form, so being able to use Ghost, being able to kite, being able to run forward to catch up with enemies, or run away to kite away from enemies is going to be really, really important. That's everything for the build with Jinx. Let's move on to the abilities. For the abilities, first up, let's take a look at Jinx's passive, which is Get Excited. So when Jinx scores a takedown, which is a kill or assist on a champion, epic monster, or a structure that she is damaged within the last 3 seconds, she gains an insane amount of decaying movement speed and a lot of attack speed. And the big thing is that Jinx, while she's excited, she can exceed the attack speed cap, so she can reach over 2.5 attack speed, which is going to help her a lot. Now, the big thing with this passive is knowing when to use this ability, use this passive aggressively, or when to use it defensively to try and run away or run forward, because you do get a lot of attack speed, and you can actually use this to kind of trick people as well at the same time. Because if you're just casually sitting there auto attacking a tower, you can just auto attack it, and then when you take it down, you get this crazy amount of attack speed and movement speed, which will catch the enemies off guard, so you can chase them down and do a lot of damage. But like I said, the big thing with this is knowing when to kite back or knowing when to chase forward. That's the big thing, because you can see here, look how much crazy movement speed you get. This is the amount of movement speed that you can get, and you get a crazy amount of attack speed as well whilst you're getting excited, which means that you'll be able to chase down enemies and do a lot of damage, but at the same time you can get caught out, because you have to remember that Jinx is very immobile and you do not have any dashes, so you have to be careful and make sure you make a decision. Do you want to run in or do you want to run away? For Jinx's first ability, we have Switcheroo, which allows Jinx to swap between 2 weapons. The first one is Fishbones, which is her rocket launcher. These attacks cost mana, but you gain an insane amount of range, and it explodes to do AoE damage, and it deals 110% damage to the target and enemies around it. Then you have Pow Pow, which is her minigun, which attacks grants bonus attack speeds for a few seconds, and this effect can stack up to 3 times with a total bonus of 120%. And the most important thing to note with Pow Pow's minigun is that the stacks will fall off one at a time and will only benefit the first attack fired by Fishbones. That's a little tip that I wanted to tell you with this ability, is that most of Jinx's abilities are kind of straightforward, but there's little tips in between that I want to talk about. So with Pow Pow, her minigun, so all you do to switch the gun, you just press the weapon, and the icon on the ability that you can see in the bottom hand corner, that will tell you which ability you have or which gun you have. So I have Fishbones here, I have the minigun. Now when you fire with your minigun, you can see you have a little number underneath that will tell you how many stacks you have. Now when you get up to 3 stacks, what you can actually do is you can swap over to your rocket form, and you can use that extra attack speed to benefit the rocket form as well. So you can, what you can do during team fights is you can start off by auto attacking a few minions or monsters or anything like that, stack up your minigun, and when you get into team fights, you change into rocket form and you use the extra attack speed that you got to be able to do a lot of damage from range. Now you do have to be careful when using Fishbones, because this does cost mana, but most of the time during team fights you will be benefiting a lot more from the extra range from Fishbones, her rocket launcher, and also the AoE damage, because the extra range you get from rocket form is quite a lot. You can see here, so I can auto attack from here, but in minigun form I have to walk up a good few, you know, a good few steps, good few units to be able to walk up, to be able to auto attack, which means that you're going to get potentially into range of melee champions or assassins that might jump on top of you. Jinx's second ability is Zap. Fires a shock blast that deals physical damage to the first enemy hit, granting vision of it and slowing it by 60% for a few seconds. Again, a pretty straightforward ability. Your second ability does have a lot of range. This is quite difficult to hit during the laning phase, so most of the time you want to use this when your support has landed any crowd control, or when it is a lot easier to hit if you land your root from your third ability, but it can be a little bit easier later on. You can see here that the Zap does have a long range, so when you're using this to slow down enemies, it allows you to get into range to use your rockets to be able to, you know, auto attack quite a lot during fights. But another big thing is that you can use this to check vision in bushes. So if you're worried, if you have no vision around objectives, say for example Baron is spawning, you can use your second ability in bushes and see if there's any enemies nearby. You can see that if you do hit an enemy, you will grant vision for a long amount of time, so you'll be able to use this ability to check bushes so that you can stay safe yourself and you can help your team get vision of enemy champions. Flame Chompers is Jinx's third ability. It tosses out 3 chompers that arm after a brief delay, and chompers explode on contact with enemy champions, interrupting their dashes and rooting them for just under 2 seconds. And enemies hit by the explosion will take a little bit of magic damage. Now, the big thing about Flame Chompers is that it does have that brief delay. When you're using this ability to try and stun enemy champions, you have to kind of predict their movement, whether you're trying to kite away and you're trying to use your third ability as like a zoning tool, or whether you're chasing champions as well. Most of the time when you tap the ability, the Flame Chompers, the third ability, is going to automatically lock onto enemy champions. So if I just tap the ability here, you can see it's automatically going to lock onto enemy champions. But most of the time, this is not actually the ideal way to use this ability. If you're looking to kite away, so for example, you're running away from this target dummy, you actually want to manually aim. You can see that if I hover this ability, it's trying to make me cast this ability as close to the enemy champion as possible. But if that champion is really fast, like a Hecarim for example, you want to make sure that you use this ability in between yourself and enemy champions. So if you use it here, for example, it would give you a great zoning tool that enemies will have to try and walk around, which will take them longer for them to get to you. The same when chasing champions as well. At the same time, when you're chasing champions, again, when you're auto attacking this champion, if I just tap the third ability, it's just going to go straight on top of that enemy champion. But if they use it like a dash, or if they use a movement speed to be able to get away, they're easily going to be able to get away before Flame Chompers even proc. So again, when you're auto attacking, when you're in range or auto attacking, you always want to manually aim your third ability behind them, and then you can see that again this works as like a zoning tool, and now a champion cannot go past the Flame Chompers, or they'll be rooted and they'll be very easy to take down. And last but by no means least, we have Jinx's ultimate, which is the super mega death rocket. Jinx fires a mega rocket that gains damage and speed over the first second it travels. The rocket explodes on the first enemy champion hit, dealing physical damage and also dealing nearby damage to enemy champions. And this ability is the global as well. This means you can use this ability across the map. You can use it from one side of the map to the other, and you can actually keep track of your ultimate by holding this ability, and you can see the ultimate the whole way it goes. Now, the one big thing with this ultimate is, as it mentions, you will be able to gain bonus damage for the first second that it travels. So you don't actually need to use this ultimate from one side of the map to the other. As long as it travels over 1 second, you'll be able to get the biggest damage output. So if I'm trying to use my ultimate in melee range like this, for example, it's not really going to do too much. It's only going to do a total of 109 damage. If I step back a little bit and then I use my ultimate, if it travels for a second and then fires, you can see that it's going to do a lot of extra damage. That's like a 300% damage bonus. If you read the ultimate as well, you're going to be doing more damage the more missing health enemy champions are going to have. So you actually don't want to use this at the start of the team fight. You want to use this near the end of a team fight, trying to secure that takedown, so then you get the passive of Jinx. You can try and get a lot of extra damage. So if I put this enemy target dummy low on health, I'll be doing a lot more damage with my ultimate because the enemy champion is going to be having a lot of missing health. You can see there, 2,000 damage. I step back a little bit more, 2,500 damage with my ultimate. So the more missing health enemy champions are going to have, the more damage your ultimate is going to be doing. So again, during team fights, really, really important things. You want to use your rocket form to auto attack at range, use your second ability to slow, and use your third ability as a zoning tool so you can auto attack at range. And then when they get low enough on health, you want to use your rocket at range, and then you'll be able to do a lot of damage. As mentioned, Jinx doesn't have any combos. All her abilities are pretty basic. You just have to make sure that you understand her abilities and you use her mechanics in the right way. So we're going to head straight into the leveling order. At level 1, you always want to go for your first ability. Having access to both her minigun and also her rocket launcher form is going to allow you to poke enemy champions at range and also allow you to gain that little bit of extra attack speed with minigun, just in case there's a level fight happen that might occur maybe in the jungle or even during the laning phase. Then at level 2, you want to go for your second ability. This will give you a really high damage output in the laning phase if you can land this ability on top of the slow, which will allow you to walk up and use your auto attacks. This works really well if you do have engaged supports that have crowd control, because you can easily follow that up. And speaking of following up crowd control, your third ability is going to be our third option. Have all our abilities available, and again, your third ability can be used to follow up any crowd control, so you can stack that crowd control on top of each other. And then the most important ability you want to max is your first ability. This is going to give you extra attack speed with your minigun form and also extra range with your range form. So it's going to give you the biggest and best amount of damage output possible. Then you want to go for your second abilities, because again, this is going to increase the damage of your second ability and also allow you to just slow a lot more. The cooldown is going to be lowered and it just increases the stats of this ability so much. And then you want to go for your third ability. It's not really that important to level your third ability because this is just mainly a zoning tool or mainly a crowd control tool. You're not really using this ability for any damage because mainly it does magic damage, but it'll still be very nice. The later it goes on, the less cooldown your third ability will have. That means that in the late game, Jinx is going to turn into that hyper carry. But obviously make sure that you level up your ultimate when possible at level 5, level 10, and at level 15. That's pretty much everything for Jinx with the rundown. We're going to head into gameplay now. Hopefully you enjoy the gameplay, and we'll see you all in just a second. All right, on to the gameplay we go with Jinx, one of my favorite AD carries to play down in the dual lane, and one of the easiest as well. As I keep mentioning throughout this video, Jinx is a very easy to learn champion. She doesn't really have any complicated abilities, as you saw in the ability section. She doesn't really have any combos. The big thing with Jinx is just auto attack spacing, knowing when to use her rocket form, knowing when to use her minigun form, and just knowing that Jinx is going to be a little bit weak in the early game. It's going to happen because Jinx is what they call a hyper carry. So that means that you need at least 2 or 3 items for Jinx to come online. You need to at least have a little bit of stats, and then Jinx can hyper carry very well into the late game. Now, in terms of best supports with Jinx, Jinx works best with any enchanter supports. Soraka, Nami, Lulu, Yuumi, any supports that's going to help her survive. And that's the big thing, because she doesn't have any mobility, she doesn't have any dashes or anything to really help her survive. She only has her passive, which is only available if she gets a takedown, which sometimes can be a little bit difficult in the early game. So any champions that you can pair with Jinx that has any sort of healing to keep her alive, or any sort of crowd control, maybe safety net like Thresher's Lantern, for example, that can also be another great option. So this lane phase, Jinx, Soraka against Nami Kai'Sa. We are going to be a little bit behind because Nami can poke very well. I do have to just make sure that I actually land my abilities, like landing my second ability, which can be a little bit difficult if they do have the full movement speed, because the second ability is a little bit slow in the early game. So I just have to make sure and just keep that in mind, that you know, when trying to land your second ability, you have to make sure that there's at least a little bit of crowd control. But we're going to go back to base here because we got our boots upgrade straight away. As I mentioned during the builds section, getting this boots upgrade early on is such a big power spike. If you can go back early on like I am doing now and not miss any minions for it, you're going to get such a big spike, like such a big spike. You can see here that I'm not going to miss any minions down this bot lane. There you go. Look at that. Not miss any minions at all. I'm just going to be able to pick up all the minions, and I'm able to get my boots as well, which again is going to give us attack damage, going to give us a little bit of omnivamp as well, which is going to allow us to survive in the early game. So you're not going to really see too much in the early game when I'm playing Jinx. You're just going to see me farm up here with minigun, try and push out the lane, try and maybe roam around and try and help out the team. You can see I'm pushing the lane here because I know that Kai'Sa army was trying to kill the volley bear there. So Kai'Sa does actually miss a few minions because of that, which is quite nice. So getting my lane priority, pushing out the lane, and you can see that we actually have a bit of a level lead now. We're level 5 to level 4. So we can actually try and look for an engage. I tried to use my traps there, maybe to try and catch the army off guard. If I could have landed the traps there, could have been very, very good for us. Because we've got that little bit of a chance of a level lead there, you saw, because Jinx and Nami missed 2 minions. They actually missed the experience as well at the same time, but still okay. Go back to base, get a double longsword. I am going to go for a shield bow as my first item. This is another alternative that you can do in the build. You don't have to go for Phantom Dancer as the first item, but I'm going to go for shield bow because they do have a lot of champions that can dive on top of me, or that can try and one-shot me. Champions like Vi, for example, Veigar can try and one-shot me, Kai'Sa can jump on top of me. So I do need that little bit of a safety net, that little bit of a lifeline shield to help me out. So if you don't want to go for Phantom Dancer first item, if you feel like you need that little bit of a shield, then you can go for the lifeline passive with shield bow as a first item instead. Again, nothing really crazy too happening. You know, me and Soraka are both just poking them out at the moment. Trying to use my second ability to try and do as much damage as possible. My rocket does get a kill there though, which is really, really nice. So the healing coming in clutch there from Soraka, allowing to keep myself alive, and also the silence doing really well there from Soraka to be able to catch out the Nami, get my auto attacks at range. And you can see that I kept my ultimate until pretty much right at the last seconds, because I want to make sure that the enemy champions are low enough on health before I use my ultimate. And if I'm able to get the enemy champions low enough on health, then my ultimate can do a lot of damage. Like, it's not good to use your ultimate at the start of fights, or it's not good to use your ultimate when champions are really, really high on HP, because it just doesn't really do anything at all. Doesn't do any damage. So a really nice advantage there to get the first kill. We're going to be ahead, so we're going to be able to go back to base here and buy a few more components. It's going to be quite nice. We're running out of mana a little bit, so that's why I went back to base. Running out of mana, just get a few more components. I'll try to use my rocket here, but I believe it's not enough. This is something you can do as well. We can keep track of enemy champions across the map. Unfortunately, my ultimate was not able to do enough damage there on the Ornn. The Riven you can see on the mini map in the top left-hand corner is not going to be able to catch him up as well. But yeah, this is one thing you can do as well, is you can keep an eye on your mini map on the top left-hand corner. And if anyone is low across the map, then you'll be able to use your ultimate to try and catch them off guard. Now you can see my trap placements here were pretty much perfect. My trap, you can see there that I was just using my traps as like a zoning tool. So I was just using my traps to make sure that the Vi couldn't get close to enough to use her ultimate. It's really nice. You can see here I'm trying to kite around the Ornn, trying to do as much damage as possible. We get another kill there as well, so that's 2 kills already. I was able to get my ultimate, just misses both of them. We are going to get a few kills in the end, though. Kai'Sa trying to help the team out. But you can see my trap placement there. Again, my trap placement is more for zoning. I'm not using it straight on top of enemy champions. I'm using it as a zoning tool. Wow, Orianna gets another kill, so I get the passive again. I'm using it as a zoning tool to make sure that the Vi and the Veigar couldn't get close enough to use their ultimates, or even to try and steal the objective. So I do need to be a little bit careful here, because I think Vi and Vi was moving down. You just saw her in vision there, and Nami was moving down. So I actually played it smart there and moved back, just took one play in, didn't try and take the whole tower. I'm gonna go back and complete my item now anyway. But yeah, again, like I can't stress enough how important your trap placement is with Jinx, because if I didn't put the trap placement there, if I moved it, maybe if it was a little bit too far towards me, or if it was underneath me, then it wouldn't have been enough. It wouldn't have been good. And like the Vi would have been able to walk up and potentially steal the objective. But because I was able to use my traps and CC the Vi, there was no way she could move, and I was able to get reset on my passive. Use my ultimate there to try and do a little bit of damage. I was trying to clear the Rift Herald to make sure they weren't able to take the tower. That was my main priority there. As long as they didn't take the tower, they're not going to get the gold from taking the tower. So I kind of wanted to wait to fight. I didn't want to fight straight away because the Rift Herald can still take the tower even after the charge. I'm going to be able to get the tower here. Another tower in the books. 2-0-3 so far. It's a really, really nice start to this game. Yeah, just killing the Rift Herald, make sure they don't take the tower, which is going to give them pretty much team-wide gold. You can see how fast Jinx can take down towers as well in her minigun form. She does a lot of auto attack damage. She has a lot of attack speed, and also a minigun form is also going to give her extra attack speed as well. Use my ghost here to dodge the Nami bubble, which is quite nice. Got the tower as well. We got 2 towers. We've also got tower mid lane, and we also got a tower top lane. So really, really nice overall. Gonna go for Phantom Dancer as the next item. Gonna get that completed as soon as possible. Yeah, look at that. I'm 2,000 gold ahead already, which is crazy. And that's all down to the pick that we got in the laning phase, the early kill, and also the trap that I was able to land onto the Vi. Because if I didn't trap the Vi, again, she could have stole the objective. She could have got into range to maybe use her ultimate on someone. But we landed the trap, we got the kill on the Vi, and we was able to use our passive aggressively. But I think most of the time this game I have used my passive aggressively, but this is not going to happen every single time. You're not going to be able to walk forward most of the time with your passive. Sometimes you're going to have to use your passive to kite backwards, or use your traps maybe to kite backwards. There are going to be multiple ways that you're going to have to use your traps, but this game I haven't need to use it you know, defensively. I've always used it aggressively to try and get as many kills as possible. So yeah, just going back to bot lane here, just clearing out the farm in bot lane. Again, my main priority with Jinx is just the farm. I just want to get to as many items as possible. I want to farm. I don't want to fight too much, even though we are very far ahead. Again, I'm a scaling champion, but if we get a pick like this, then it can give us the passive and allow us to, you know, you can see here, auto attack at range, slow with the second ability. Again, big thing there, my trap placement. You see how I was able to aim my trap placement? That was the big thing there, to be able to stun the Ornn. If I just auto cast my third ability there, the Ornn was not going to be able to get rooted. The Ornn doesn't get rooted there if I just tap my third ability, because by the time the third ability, that small delay happens, you know, that slight delay that happens, that was being explained in the ability description, that small delay is not going to be able to root Ornn. Like, Ornn's going to be able to walk away from that. So you can see that I was trying to manually aim my third ability in front of Ornn, so when he's trying to walk away, he is going to get stunned. So again, trap placement, you know, very, very important to be able to get the kill there. I'm not doing a crazy amount of damage to Ornn because I'm not building any armor pen yet, but I'm so far ahead that I can just build a lot of damage anyway. It doesn't really mean too much. Again, I'm just roaming around. I'm just trying to find the best places to farm right now. If you do have to take jungle camps, then hey, take jungle camps. You're the main carrier at the end of the day, not your jungler. Unless they're playing something like Kayn or someone like that. But I do it quite a lot where I go towards the jungle and I take some farm in the jungle. And then sometimes junglers always take lane farm as well. So again, every single time, I want everyone to kind of take this as a tip coming out of this game. Every single time that you walk out of base, I want you to look on the minimap and look where I can get the most farm. Is it in the jungle? Do I have to walk bot side in the jungle? Is it the midway farm? Is the mid lane minions crashing in? Do I have to go back to bot lane? Because if I go to bot lane here, it's completely pointless. Look at where the minion wave is in bot lane. It's completely pointless. I'm not going to get anything at all. Unfortunately, my rocket missed because of the shockwave, but that's fine. We was able to get the kill anyway. I had to flash away there because of the Veigar cage was a little bit scary. We're able to survive anyway. That's a little bit scary because of the Veigar cage. I could have got one shot still by the Veigar. Yeah, like if I go to the bot lane here, it's pointless. Look at where the bot lane wave is. If I go to the bot lane wave, then I have to push so far forward by myself. And most of the time, I'm probably going to get caught by enemy champions. Unfortunately, my team is maybe going to get a little bit caught here. If I get one kill on the Ornn here, it's going to be huge for my passive. Yep, got my passive going. Able to slow, use my ultimate. That's another kill as well. And again, it's just using my spacing to my advantage. Using my rocket form to my advantage. That extra range is going to be so crucial. You can see here, I'm just auto-attacking my minigun form. Again, my passive procs off again. And you can see that when Jinx has, you know, 2 or 3 items online, she's going to do an insane amount of damage. My passive procs so many times throughout the entire team fight. And I'm not stepping too far forward. I'm not going solo by myself. I'm making sure that I have my team there. I'm making sure I'm using my traps as well to zone. And I'm using it as a sort of spacing tool. Vi there trying to jump on top of me, but yeah, Vi's not going to have a lot of fun. Has to flash away. We're just zoning the Vi at the moment because we're taking Baron. Volibear's pretty much taking Baron by himself. Riven's doing a really great job here, actually zoning the rest of the team away, which is really nice. I was a little bit worried here that the Baron's going to get stolen. I think it was on like 20 HP, but was able to get it anyway. But look at our gold. 3,500 gold. We complete the Infinity Edge. We can go into Mortal Reminder now or go for Boots Upgrade. That's also a great option. Stasis also pretty good this game because I can use my stasis if I get stuck by like Veigar Cage. If I get Vi ultimate, for example, stasis is a good way to stop Vi's ultimate by itself. 5-3 items now. I know that I don't need to really build towards Mortal Reminder too much. I already have enough damage and I'm so far ahead. So I'm just building my Boots Upgrade as like a defensive point. Defensive Boots Upgrades. Just so I can keep myself alive because I have enough damage. I have the Soraka. I just need to make sure that I stay alive now. They're trying to trap us in bushes, which is not going to really work out for them too well. Volibear does get a little bit caught here. You can see that I'm not stepping too far forward. Look, you see here, I'm using my rocket form to attack the tower. I'm not using my minigun form. I'm not stepping in close enough range that they can use their abilities to be able to, you know, kill me, like Vi ultimate, for example. So I'm just using my rocket gun form at range, and I think we're able to finish the game here as well. You see, I'm trying to kill the Veigar. I tried to kill the Veigar. I get stunned. Do I die here? I can't even remember. Oh no, I don't die here. The game finishes. So yeah, flawless game in total. Really good. Really good game. Again, another thing when taking towers with Jinx as well. Most of the time you want to use minigun form because you get that attack speed, and that's going to be really important with taking towers very quickly. But in situations like that, when you have a Veigar on the enemy team, you have a Vi on the enemy team, and if you do step too close enough in range, you are going to get caught by that combo and you are going to take a lot of damage. So what I did there is I used my rocket form instead and just auto attack at range, and that meant that Vi couldn't get close enough, Veigar couldn't get close enough, and I was just pretty much able to take 2 towers for free, which allowed us to finish the game. But you can see the damage in total, 24,000 damage. Not the craziest game in total, but I think there was a few things this game that I wanted to point out in terms of making sure that you are, you know, sitting back with your rockets during team fights. You're not using your minigun form during team fights. You use your ultimate when enemies are low on health, and you always manually aim your third ability. That's the most important thing that I want you all to take with this Jinx guide. But hopefully you all enjoyed the guide anyway. It was a pretty long one, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.